One method being used by epistemology to acquire knowledge is empiricism. So a subcategory of epistemology in its attempt to acquire knowledge. Again, ang keyword natin for epistemology is the mind's attempt to obtain knowledge. Knowledge yung keyword natin. One method of epistemology in its attempt to acquire knowledge is empiricism. The keyword for empiricism is acquiring knowledge through the use of senses. So if you're going to acquire knowledge, let's say for example sa palengke, merong tindera doon, and then tinawag ka, anong hanap mo, pogi? So what type of knowledge did you acquire? The knowledge that we acquire in this particular case is the statement about yourself that you are a pogi. And then you're able to obtain that using your sense of hearing. Narinig mo. So nung narinig mo yun, anong klaseng knowledge to? Now the reason why this is an example of empiricism is because you're able to acquire this information, yung pagiging pogi mo, through your sense of hearing. Again, a keyword for empiricism, it's a method being used by epistemology, is we try to acquire knowledge using our senses. All knowledge obtained through senses, this is not inherited, it is acquired. Under empiricism, let's examine empiricism further. General ideas are formed from the examination of particular facts using the senses, and then we use empiricism use induction or assumption. This is the other term for empiricism is perceptual knowing, because you use perceptions or your five senses. Again, under empiricism uses induction or assumption. Mag-a-assume ka. What do we assume? Empiricism uses inductive reasoning. In other words, we examine particular facts. So yung particular facts here, yung pagiging pogi mo as an individual, that's a particular factual experience observed by the tindera. So ang next na in order for that particular experience to be an example of empiricism is the tindera use you as a particular consumer for that specific incident. So you use your sense of hearing. So ideas are formed from the examination of particular facts. In this case, we start from the observation. We use perceptual knowing. We use our senses. So ang specific or particular example here is the X corporation. So specific to particular, anong corporation is the X corporation. X corporation broke the law. And then again, inductive reasoning, ideas are formed from the examination of particular facts. Particular facts, ito yung particular example natin, the X corporation. Yung particular facts natin a while ago, yung ikaw na pagiging pogi sa mata ng tindera kasi you are a particular consumer. And then if you're going to develop inductive reasoning, Y and Z corporation, so specific pa rin to, specific corporation, ang particular nito particularly is the Y corporation. So Y corporation, X corporation, and Z corporations are three particular corporations who broke the law. So ang assumption natin dito, it's your hypothesis, since inductive reasoning, as mentioned a while ago, it's a process of induction wherein we assume because we start from the particular facts. So this is empiricism. Anong particular again natin dito? Yung particular corporations X, Y, and Z. Tatlo, kaya siya particular. They are corrupt. So mag-assume tayo, since it's consistent, corporation X, Y, Z are particular corporations kasi nabibilang natin siya using our senses. They are corrupt. So we assume generally that corporations are often corrupt. Kahit may dumating pang corporation S dyan, corporation A, corporation D, we assume that they are corrupt kasi consistent yung observation natin from corporation X, Y, Z, may consistency, corrupt yan. So if we're going to refer to the previous example, si consumer X dumaan sa palengke ni Aling Nene, pogi ang tawag sa kanya. Tapos may consumer Y ka, dumaan ulit sa tindahan ni Aling Nene. Anong itatawag ni Aling Nene dyan? Pogi pa rin. Pogi si consumer C. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng dumadaan dun sa tindahan ni Aling Nene sa palengke, lahat yan magiging pogi. So, ang ginamit natin is inductive reasoning. Nag-assume tayo na lahat ng dumadaan kay tindahan ni Aling Nene ay pogi kasi lahat ng mga specific consumer doon tinatawag niyang pogi. Ang tanong, does this apply at all times? That's the problem with inductive reasoning. May pagkakataon ba na may mga dumadaan na consumer doon na pag halimbawa may dumaan doon si Sander Ford, tatawagin din bang pogi? We don't know. But if we're going to apply inductive reasoning, most likely si Sander Ford matatawag na pogi. Kasi what is applicable from your previous particular observation must be applicable in your conclusion. That's inductive reasoning under empiricism. Now, kabaliktaran to ng deductive reasoning. For deductive reasoning, another method used in empiricism is rationalism. Now, rationalism uses deductive reasoning. Now, when we say deductive reasoning, kabaliktaran ng inductive reasoning. Your observation, magsisimula ka ngayon from your assumption, from your hypothesis. Corporations are often corrupt. Ibaliktad lang natin siya. So, knowledge is based on general laws. So, this is a general law, a general standard, for instance. So, observation siya. So, from general to specific. From general to specific is the movement of your deductive reasoning. Kanina, inductive reasoning from specific to general. So, corporations are often law. This is corporations, general siya. So, you're talking about the whole, kabuuan, corporations, marami. Ang sabi dito, subject, ang predicate natin are often corrupt. So, what we observe now, from general to specific, magiging, kaya siya deduction, you're deducing the whole. Dinideduce mo, binabawasan mo yung whole to its parts. So, from the whole, nagiging parts na siya, X, Y, Z, nagiging specific, XY corporations broke the law. So, madaling salita, si Y corporations and Z corporations are corrupt. Conclusion. Kasi I have my basis from my whole premise. So, ibig sabihin, lahat daw ng dumadaan na lalaki sa tindahan ni Aling Nene ay tinatawag na pogi. Pag dumaan, halimbawa, ako, anong itatawag sa akin? So, ang conclusion na pwede kong gawin doon must be in connection with my general premise, which is the whole. So, madaling salita, ang tawag sa akin ay pogi. Dahil I'm using deductive reasoning, I'm using rationalism. Right? That's the difference between deductive reasoning and then inductive reasoning. Another method used under empiricism, again, ang inaalam natin sa empiricism is the limits of our knowledge. For the idealist, ang tinututukan lang nila are ideas. For example, etong instance na to, dude, I have so many ideas that would revolutionize life on earth and bring awesomeness to mankind. Ibig sabihin nun, lahat ng thoughts niya to change earth and to change the society, nandun lang, restricted lang sa utak niya. That's idealism. Whereas for pragmatism requires more an immediate solution. An idea has meaning if it has practical consequences. Practical consequences, ibig sabihin, merong resulta. How about you just take out the garbage and do the dishes for once? Practicality ang other term for pragmatism. When we say practicality, may specific problem as of the moment dito sa problema to. Ang problem dito, kailangan masolusyonan kaagad. Ang problem here is the garbage and then the dishes. Pero ito, ang gustong baguhin ng person A here is to revolutionize the earth as a whole. Idealist, ibig sabihin nito, nag-e-exist lang siya sa utak. Ito, nag-e-exist siya sa utak, at the same time, pwede nating masolusyonan kasi practical yung consequences. That's the difference between pragmatism, and then idealism. What can be used is what? Valuable. Ang keyword natin for pragmatism, practicality, nagagamit siya for a specific event. So, anong specific event dito? It's about utility. It's about practical consequences. That's pragmatism. Now, we discuss next, again, that's empiricism, that's epistemology. Ang keyword for epistemology, knowledge, I've discussed under epistemology, empiricism, and rationalism. Empiricism uses inductive. Rationalism, kabaliktaran ng inductive, we use deductive. I also discuss here idealism and then pragmatism. Let's proceed to morality or ethics. Sa ethics, discusses more about the actions. Ang keyword natin dito is the action. Inaalam natin kung tama o mali ang specific action. Again, nandun pa rin yung doer and then the known. In this case, meron tayong doer. Pwedeng doer to, pwedeng doer din. Pwedeng subject, pwedeng object. Pwedeng subject din to, pwedeng object din to. So, in this slide, we have two moral thoughts. We have moral relativism or subjectivism, and then we have moral objectivism. When we say moral relativism or pagiging subjective, yung pagiging tama or mali ng action nakadepende lang dun sa knower, dun sa subject. So, ibig sabihin, if I'm going to kill this person, in order for these three, halimbawa kasama ako dito, in order for us to survive, it becomes morally correct. It becomes morally valid. It becomes morally good. Kasi, the action that we're doing is relative, nakadepende sa aming perception kung ano ang tama. Tama to kasi, if we're going to eat this person, we will survive. That's moral relativism. Now, yung action na gagawin ng tatlong tao to nagiging mali kasi ang nagper-perceive naman itong object. So nakadepende ang pagiging tama at mali ng action depende dun sa nag-observe. That's moral relativism. Kung ang tingin ko for example sa bagay na to is circle, nagiging tama ako. Kasi that's me being subjective. Pero kung ang tingin nyo dito is circle, nagiging tama kayo kasi you are being subject as well. So nagiging tama ang specific action depende sa person na nag-observe, sa person na naka-experience nung action na yon, sa subject, sa doer. That becomes moral relativism or objectivism. Ang moral objectivism naman is kabaliktaran ng moral relativism. Morality exists independently of what anyone thinks is right or wrong. In this case, this is moral objectivism kasi morality exists independently of what anyone thinks. For this person, killing, regardless of their views, so magsusurvive ka o hindi, killing pa rin ang gagawin mo. Killing is considered as incorrect. So, katulad din nito, 1 plus 1 is y, 1 plus 1 is x. This is an example of moral relativism. Kasi for this individual, y is still correct kasi siya yung naka-experience, x is still correct kasi siya yung naka-experience. That's moral relativism. That's the problem under ethics. Hindi natin alam kung sino ang tama, hindi natin alam kung anong actions ang tama o mali because we experience different scenarios, we experience different cases. Another problem being discussed by ethics is utilitarianism, the principle of utilitarianism. The keyword under principle of utilitarianism is pleasure or happiness. The greatest happiness principle. Yan ang ibig sabihin, yan ang keyword lang ng utilitarianism. So, ibig sabihin, an action is correct, as mentioned here, in proportion as they tend to promote happiness. Happiness of what kind of happiness? Happiness for the greatest number of people. Now, if it won't produce happiness for the greatest number of people, it is not considered as a good action. If it would produce the opposite of happiness for a lot of people, then it is not a good action. So in other words, action is good on the basis of the amount. quantifiable. Dami ng pleasure brought about by the consequences. So titingnan natin ngayon yung effect ng action na gagawin mo. Ito ba ay ikaliligaya mo as an individual o ikaliligaya ng karamihan? Kung ikaliligaya to ng karamihan, it's utilitarianism, principle of utilitarianism, it becomes good. If your action is intended for your own happiness, it's a different type of utilitarianism. So again, ang keyword natin here is happiness for the greatest number of people. And happiness is pain and privation of pleasure. An example of utilitarian here is John Stuart Mill. So we have two types of utilitarianism. It's act and rule utilitarianism. So what's the difference? Ang rule utilitarianism looks for the consequences of having everyone, ayun, and ang keyword natin, everyone follow a particular rule and calculates the overall utility of accepting or rejecting the rule. So ibig sabihin, under rule utilitarianism, ang importante is the welfare of everyone. That's rule utilitarianism. Under act utilitarianism, ang importante is my own personal happiness. So looks at the consequences of each individual. So nagiging specific ang act, ang rule nagiging general. So act pertains to the individual each individual, and calculates utility each time the act is performed. In this case, we're going to analyze if this is act utilitarianism or rule utilitarianism. I might be including this one as part of your sit work. So again, the difference between act utilitarianism, ang consequence pa rin na objective ng utilitarianism, ang pinaka-aim nito is to analyze happiness. Now, nagiging problematic siya kasi sino ba ang mas mahalagang happiness? The happiness of the I or the happiness of everyone? Should the I conform to the happiness of everyone, or the everyone should conform to the happiness of the I? Another problem here being discussed by the principle of utilitarianism, capital punishment. If we're going to penalize an individual through death sentence, isa ang mamamatay, are we favoring act utilitarianism or rule utilitarianism? Pag merong isang train dito, tapos isang option ka lang is to save everyone over the individual I, are you implementing rule utilitarianism or act utilitarianism? So I might be introducing these situations to you as examples in our sit work next time. So I think this will be the last slide of our session for today. I'll try to continue again the other branches of philosophy in our next meet.